Hey there, gals and guys. Vetemor here with the latest episode of the Vetcast. Today, we've got Kyle Willson, crypto and GameFi influencer, who recently became Illuvium's Media Manager. How's it going, Kyle?
It's going great, man. It's great to be on the show, and thank you for having me on today.
It's great to have you, bro. Now, I actually scrolled to the bottom of your YouTube channel recently, and you've actually been making YouTube videos about crypto for like over 4 years now. What are the changes that you've witnessed in the crypto space and in the way that people are engaging with it during all that time?
Yeah, so the early days of crypto was quite different. Definitely a lot more speculation and the possibilities of blockchain. And then really NFTs were super infancy. I mean, at that point, there wasn't really any like crypto kitties or anything like that. So although they had the base level, the white papers, so you could read a lot about it. So I'd say like there wasn't this like whole Web3 boom and talk and there wasn't really any like, DeFi type protocols, really out there. So it was truly in its infancy stages. And the people that really understood blockchain knew the actual possibilities back then. So if you're super early on, if you're whether you're a content creator or somebody like that, you knew the vision of things were going to go, but you sounded more crazy back then. Like back then, people were like, "Who is this guy? Like, what is this magic internet money this person is talking about?" And back then when I started, like the crypto larks and like the big like 1 million subscriber YouTubers that we know of today, they actually had really small channels back then. And
Yeah.
I did kind of step away for YouTube a while, and I wish I hadn't, but long story short, those guys like kept going. And yeah, but the main thing I've noticed as far as that goes is like Web3 wasn't really known as Web3. That term wasn't even used, and nowadays it is used. And now we're seeing the rise of NFTs, obviously, and GameFi, and we're really seeing things play out like they were supposed to, or had envisioned years ago. And so it actually is mind blowing to see it actually things being born. Like it's one thing to talk about it years ago, and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool, it's gonna happen, trust me, bro, and like nobody believe you. And then when it does happen, you're like, it's almost unbelievable, but you knew it was coming. And I believe like what we're witnessing now has happened much quicker than what I thought was possible. Like I thought it was going to take 10 years, 20 years. I thought I was going to get a couple more grays by the time, things were going to start progressing. But, with everything happening in the world today, it just, made things escalate and accelerate much quicker than anticipated. And I think most people, would agree with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, COVID, although it was like obviously not a good thing, it was also a great thing in terms of like technological advancement because people were at home and they had plenty of time to be on their computers to research new things, to change their minds about things. And a lot of people opened up to crypto. Like all the markets just like crashed. And then obviously things went straight back up for crypto because, dip, you got to buy it.
Yeah, you got to buy it, like obviously, for sure.
I mean, I wish I'd bought that dip. I wasn't even in crypto back then, so I'm fresh off the boat personally.
Yeah, well, there's still early things to get into, and there's still much more that needs to be done. There's going to be opportunities always, and we're still super early. So, and right now it's kind of a bear market. So, people can still make a lot of money there. Not financial advice.
I mean, bear market is just like the best time to have your head down, arse up, and just be building, just putting the work in, being there, taking part, and then reaping the rewards when eventually, like, because it's just bound to happen. A bull market has to come eventually. It's just the cycles of like life. And in all the time that you have spent in the space, what would you say is the number one thing that most newcomers miss when getting into the space? And what would you say to someone new to the space coming into the space today?
Yeah, so I would say, always be secure. I know that's like super obvious, but I even see like pros that get hacked or, interact with the wrong thing or, trust too much, or maybe they're on Twitter and click a link there. And anyways, like the security is super important. So I think a lot of people miss that. or they just get a little bit of, apathetic or a little bit lazy with that. And unfortunately, they can lose money there. And so that's one thing, is always double checking, sending test amounts before you send a full amount of crypto, just kind of the obvious basic stuff, but always keeping those best practices in mind. But that's the big one. The second one is not being afraid of experimenting with other things. So other blockchains and other DeFi protocols and bridges. Like, don't be afraid to send a couple bucks and play around with the stuff. And oftentimes you'll find out that those DeFi protocols actually reward you just for even playing around with their ecosystem, because they want people to actually use it and they want to incentivize, and they'll airdrop. So that can be beneficial not only for you, but it also grows your knowledge of the space. You're like, oh, that wasn't so bad after all. It was just a couple bucks, So I highly encourage people to, play around with that stuff, but in a safe way. Maybe do that on a burner account, not your main account. But yeah, experimenting with different blockchains is definitely beneficial. And I think it helps the space, help you grow and understand how these different ecosystems work and why they could be valuable. Because even myself, sometimes like I'll be like, nah, that protocol, it'll never take off. And then I'm like,
But you've never tried it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Never tried it. Or I'll notice like it start to slowly pick up, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. And I'm like, oh, that was really refreshing. Like, that was actually really cool. And I could definitely see why projects are moving to this blockchain or ecosystem. So that's one big thing that I would say is security, and always, experimenting in a safe way.
Yeah, the biggest step to demystifying crypto when you're a beginner is like literally just jump in, get out like 10, 20, $100 that you're just happy to burn, and just play with a bunch of different protocols, just exchanging money, putting different, like just playing around with it, make some wallets, like just be okay with that, because that $100 is going to earn you so much knowledge and understanding within the space that most people just don't have, just watching YouTube videos and never actually like trying them out for themselves, because that's really where the knowledge is at. As for like the crypto security, I think that's like hugely underrated, because it's talked about so much that people almost just like take it for granted, and they're just like, nah, it's fine, I'll do it some other time. I know people that have had like hundreds of thousands of dollars and they've lost them just because they just didn't pay attention to crypto. And it's like, it's actually nuts how how insecure an actual MetaMask wallet is compared to like a ledger, because it literally stores your seed phrase on there. I still need to make a full crypto security course. I really want to make like an hour-long course, just release that out for free, just because people need that shit 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how exactly did your crypto journey lead you to Illuvium, and how did you first feel when you got into Illuvium?
Yeah, so I would say, I've been kind of hoping a game would come out eventually. And, early on, I was like looking at, the engine ecosystem and blockchain, even Wax and things like that early on. And at the time, it was just kind of like a dream, or like what they wanted to do on this white paper. And so, that's when I got back into NFTs, I knew there's going to be games built around the ecosystem. So early on, I was looking into different projects. Obviously, I found Vivi. They've actually just announced that they're doing, some kind of gamification and building their own, or at least, I guess importing is not the right word, but they're going to allow other games to use their token, their Ecomi token. So that's going to be pretty exciting. And long story short, like I just kept looking and researching, and actually Poor Man Printing kept hitting me up in my DMs about it. And I was just like, okay, I'll take a look. And so I did. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay. So the first time, like I actually even seen anything, was, early in the year, last year, I think it was in March or February. And I was just scrolling down my Twitter feed, and I saw like Alex Becker's tweet, and it was like the Scoot NFT with, I think it was Titanor or whatever, and Scoot riding it. And it was like Alex's like deal that he did with the Illuvium or whatever. And I just remember thinking, I was like, first, what the heck is Illuvium? Second of all, this is an amazing NFT. Like, this looks holographic. I was like, I don't know what this is. And I like, I kind of learned about it and I was like, oh, okay. And then I just like forgot. He kept scrolling. And at the time, my mind wasn't like wired to just dig in like it is now. And yeah, long story short, Poor Man Printing kept hitting me up, and I was like, I think I've heard of this. And so I looked into it again. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be massive. Like, what am I doing? Like, so yeah, so that's kind of how that happened, and like how it transpired, and started taking a more serious look at it, and obviously bought like the tokens, and that the kind of the rest is history on that. So.
And how did you end up as the media manager of Illuvium?
Yeah, so honestly, I just saw a posting and I applied to it. And I really didn't want to get into like traditional like business ever again. I'm like, if I'm gonna do something, like I want it to be something I love and I want to do every day. Like, who wouldn't? And so, and I knew like we're early like now, and maybe in the next couple of years, like it's gonna be a lot harder to get into crypto or whatever, right? And so I found like the best of both worlds. So, for me, I was just like, I think I have the skills here for this. And so, I've been marketing for a long time, like 10 years, and have a super solid foundation in it. And so, yeah, so luckily they picked me, and so yeah, I'm just super happy and thankful to be here and to work for Illuvium, and it's obviously the future. So.
Awesome, awesome. And now that you are the media manager, that's obviously part of the Illuvium marketing team. What exactly does that like involve, like the role, and what is your background in marketing beyond like having a content creator channel?
Yeah, so my main job is I'm an influencer and media manager. So, working with influencers and finding different avenues and collaborations, things like that. So, I'm, constantly, getting hit in the DMs, and working with people, and, even collaborating, trying to get some community initiatives going. So, that's kind of what the influencer side looks like. And the media side, looking at these media outlets and things like that. So, getting the word out, working with these different, media outlets and other opportunities that are incoming as well, kind of sorting through all that, and, really getting the Illuvium name out there. And that's kind of like priority number one. So I know I'm like the influencer media manager, but it's all about getting Illuvium out there and educating people and bringing in the masses. So that's really what my job really is. But I just so happen to have this title. So, you know,
And in your marketing expertise, what would you say are like Illuvium's strengths and weaknesses when it comes to marketing? What would you focus on?
Yeah, I would say, just coming off of what I just said is like bringing more knowledge to Illuvium and getting the name out there to the masses, and what this game's about, and how it's obviously like the future, but also explaining that to like the average person that maybe not understand what blockchain is or how to use it. And, I think that's going to be the definitely like the quote unquote weakness of Illuvium, because the product is a massive strength. I mean, that's a massive selling point, and it does the speaking for itself, right? So that is like really the strongest part. But the weakest part is really the industry's weakness as a whole, as crypto and NFT is educating, gamers, like what blockchain is and what it's not, because there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to NFTs and blockchain. Like, it's destroying the world. But obviously we know there's like layer two solutions, like we've talked about Immutable X, where it's carbon neutral, and even Polygon, like to mint NFT, it's like sending 2 emails now. So there's like super low energy blockchains that are carbon neutral. So
And
I
ETH
think
2.0 is coming. Yeah.
E 2.0 is right around the corner. So, I mean, as this industry matures, I think so will that education. And I think that's going to be a super important part. I think the crypto natives and NFT natives, I think they're all like on the same page, like and bullish on Illuvium, but it's more so just the mainstream and getting that word out in the right way. And so I think that will be kind of the thing to tackle for, not only Illuvium, but the industry as a whole.
I also look forward to like GameFi games becoming a bit more accessible to people that not only don't know anything about crypto, but they don't want to have their misconceptions educated out. they just want to play games, right? They don't want to be educated. They just want to play games. And I think, like, I've heard Kieran talk about it, that he wants to almost make it I don't know if eventually or at the start, but like to not even almost have a wallet creation process within the game. Like it just happens automatically. Crypto native people can obviously like link crypto, do all that stuff, but people that are just interested in like gaming, like it will just be seamless, like playing any other game. And I really hope that they do manage that. Like just, pull out your credit card, just buy some fuel or whatever straight away. That would be super cool.
Yeah, and really that's the future. I know like, my decentralization, like in me and a lot of like, DeFi maxis, like they're like, whoa, wait a minute, like custodial wallet, like, but at the same time, if you really want crypto to go mainstream, like you really are going to have some kind of custodial system. I mean, if you look at Coinbase and the success of Coinbase, a lot of that, it's like the custodial wallet. And if we look at other platforms, I think autograph.io does a pretty good job of, having your own custodial wallet, and it makes it super easy. So when you go to DraftKings to buy an NFT, you just pull out your card, you just buy it. I mean, you just upload funds with your card and you buy the NFT and it's in your account. And there's not this like crazy, like, oh yeah, you got to go set up a MetaMask, you got to link it, you got to put the, the network in there. There's nothing like that, So I think projects that implement somewhat of a custodial system, yeah, that'll be a little centralization there, but for the average mainstream gamer, if that's the person we're going after, it's going to be, exponentially important to get them to put their, to step in and actually play the game without having to worry about like, MetaMasks and doing, XYZ and being a programmer just to play a game. Like that's not going to reach the masses. It's just not. And I think there's a balance there. Like you said, with what Kieran was saying about, how there will still be the option for people like that want that interoperability and full control and, putting on your ledger, cold storage. I think you can do the best of both worlds, frankly. And I think that's a much better system when you have both options. And I think that's key for tackling, going mainstream, if you will.
I think decentralization and DeFi, like they come together, and decentralization is super important to have on the base layer, but things being built on top, like there's still decentralization in a lot of them, but like there needs to be centralized options, just because like custodial wallets, that's how we get like the mainstream onboarded. Like we've got like these like yield staking pools, different things where people could just stake stable coins. We can't just have crypto native people accessing this. We need your average Joe that's like a boomer and just doesn't know anything about crypto and doesn't want to. We want them to buy some stable coins in a normal wallet, almost like just in a bank wallet, like the same sort of thing. And then just why even use your savings account when you can hold your stable coins and earn like 5% a year, which is insane compared to what a savings account gives you. That's how we onboard the masses.
Right.
You're definitely right.
Yeah. It's not like, I mean, in society, we like to decentralize like some things, and that's good, but really nothing we do is like fully decentralized, like ever. Like, the militaries are never fully decentralized. Imagine like just throwing somebody out there and be like, yeah, you go do that, decentralized. Like, no, like you have to take command and orders, or if you're playing with a team, like there's obviously like the quarterback or whoever, like
different roles in the team.
Yeah, there has to be somewhat of a structure to do things. And while like back then I would have maybe argued much more, but I do see like there's obviously use cases for both. And I think when you have some centralization to some degree, that can be beneficial for people that want to trust something, people that are mainstream and may not have a full knowledge. And I think it's important to reach everybody. And so yeah, I nowadays I'm like, yeah, I could definitely see the benefit of having some centralization options available. So
the other thing is, when I first got into Illuvium, I was like, okay, like it's like a year or two away, we're gonna go mainstream, like the whole world's gonna know about us. And the more I've sort of stayed in Illuvium, the more that vision has actually changed for me. And I actually feel like we don't even need to target mainstream anytime soon. We need to first target the crypto audiences because they're ridiculously more receptive to this kind of concept. And then like mainstream will like begin to seep in on its own. And like in the next 3 to 5 years is when mainstream really starts opening up to the GameFi space, because that's when we'll really have, you know, like actual AAA games that people want to play, because you wouldn't change what you normally do unless the thing you're changing to is not only like as good as, but it's even better. So we need like the same quality of games with the better user experience and the ownership of assets. Like what's your vision on like mainstream adoption, how that's going to play out, and how soon do we actually need to market towards mainstream, or, you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so being in the space and seeing like crypto really take off, I think we'll see something similar with gaming. Is like people will just like once the game is just launched and it's just out there, like crypto has adopted it. Like, and I talk to people all the time in the crypto world, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I can't wait for Illuvium." They're like, "Oh my gosh, like." And they'll ask me a bunch of questions and updates and things like that. So the product speaks for itself there. And then I think once the game is launched and everything's fully in swing, and everybody's like playing the game and super hyped, I think that's when, I think the masses are going to start taking a look at it. You'll see like the mainstream media outlets really start paying attention a little bit more. They're like, well, wait a minute, this is really cool and this is actually working. And there may be some slight pushback there, but I think at the end of the day, innovation always wins. And you'll have a couple naysayers here and there along the way, but I think the game's going to speak for itself. And I think it's just a time thing and an adoption thing. So yeah, like you just said, like crypto, appealing to crypto first and having that adoption is going to be huge and important. But that's also good because that's also where a lot of liquidity is, right, in crypto. So yeah, I think we definitely need to tackle the crypto market before we move to the mainstream type of players and space, if you will. But I think over time, I think the innovation and the product is just going to speak for itself, and media outlets will want to talk about something like this because it's so unique and so special, and so reporters will need to look at this and take it serious.
A definite light bulb moment went off in my head when I was listening to you and Andrew in like one of the recent Illuva talks, because he was like saying that like actually the reason why a lot of these like traditional gaming companies they're not really touching like GameFi yet is because, like, for example, Blizzard, they're always like up like 5-10 years behind the new thing, because it's still an experimental mode, and if they don't want to risk it almost. So we right now are actually super early developing in this space, and anyone that's wondering why aren't big companies, gaming companies jumping in, like, it is literally because it's not proven. Ubisoft like tested the waters, but they don't know how to even do NFTs,
Yeah.
and like they got so much pushback, and it was nuts.
Yeah, they got massive pushback, and I think they were like on Polygon too. So it was like this like low energy blockchain, or very minimal, and they still got this crazy pushback because the education phase hasn't really happened with gamers, and that's always the case with game. Like I don't know what it is, and maybe that's because the infamous like Star Wars like loot box thing like that EA did or whatever that like totally spoiled it for everybody. But traditionally gamers too, like if anything new happens, and Andrew's mentioned this before too, like any kind of new business model, gamers are always like, wait, bro, no, okay, it's all right, it's all right, and then they start doing it. So I think that we'll probably same thing here with the NFT side of things. I think at first gamers like, whoa, bro, that's not cool, no, like that's dumb. And then I think as time goes on, they'll just be like, okay, wait a minute, oh, okay, I see, all right, and then everybody's just going to jump in on it. So we're in that initial like phase one, and then we're going to get to that phase two where they're like, okay, wait a minute, and then that's when we'll start noticing like the big gamers really step into the space, and then that's when we're going to see even more companies take bigger chances. And I don't know what the timeline is. It's as good as guess as anybody else's. So
But it's just a matter of time.
it's
And
just a matter of time.
and you mentioned that the game speaks for itself. Now, you are on the team, does that mean that you already have access to play the game?
No comment.
Ooh, I think that speaks for itself as well. Okay, let's move on. Of course, beyond like crypto and marketing, you're also an experienced content creator. Before we wrap things up, do you have any words of wisdom to any like new or aspiring content creators in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. Like always be networking. I've the first thing I did when I started doing YouTube again is I started reaching out to other creators. I actually kind of stole the model from Twitch because I saw like all these like Twitch guys, like and gals and girls and stuff. I saw them all like networking with each other. They're rating each other's channels and doing all this fun stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like no, like Twitch is having all the fun. Let's bring that to YouTube. And so I just got the idea. I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to start networking with other YouTubers in my like kind of niche and stuff like that. So I started just reaching out and just chatting with others and bringing people on. And that's kind of like how my channel kind of started, getting successful and getting known out here in the space. And that's important too, because we're so early is you want to have as much content about the space and you want to bring in other minds and really bring in that perspective and become like that expert in the space. But another thing I would say is like, maybe like, branch out a tad, like don't go too wide on YouTube because YouTube will kind of like punish you if you go too wide. But don't be afraid to do other content. Like the other day I was on a call with Andrew and he was actually mentioning like an 80-20% rule. Like 80% of the time you're doing your bread and butter content, and the other 20% of the time you're doing something else to see if that sticks and that works, because sometimes you'll cover something else, it does really well, and that can bring in new eyeballs to your YouTube channel, and that is good for your brand. And so there's other things like affiliate marketing and finding sponsorships and things like that to really help you succeed. And that's really important. And early on, like that was one of my major goals. And I came from the affiliate space as well. And so I knew early on, like I needed to sign up for these affiliate programs. Like that was like the first thing I did when I started doing YouTube. And I recommend doing that. Find a program that is like either a product you already use, like Ledger has an affiliate program. There's like a bunch of other companies, right? Like all these exchanges have affiliate programs. And so I just immediately like applied to them all. I was like, I already use them all. I'm going to apply to them all. And I only recommend stuff I use personally. Like I don't recommend anything else. And so I was like, well, I'm going to do that. And that helps you basically invest into your own business. Like I was able to buy like a new camera and, upgrade my computer and things like that. So I put back like all the money I was earning on YouTube back into my business, because one day I knew that like that was going to pay off. And so, yeah, so that's what I would suggest is have a plan and a strategy for not only growth, but to upgrade your business, and yeah, and don't be afraid to collaborate, bring people on. And people like, I think the main thing too is like fear. It's like, oh my gosh, like I only have 2K subscribers, or I only have, 1K. This CEO would never come on my channel. And it's like, how many times have you had Kieran on? And like, how many times has like, and so you guys are literally like breaking the barrier, and like for the new people starting out with like 0 subs, like, don't be scared to ask. Like, like obviously you want to build up your channel a little bit before you ask, but like, even if you're at 1K, like you'll be surprised these CEOs that will want to come on your show, or these heads of marketing or heads of these companies, because they are also trying to get their brand out there, and they know very well that that one viewer that watches it could have a lot of money and could use that link in your description, or that could purchase whatever they were talking about in the video, or get excited about a product or whatever, right? And so and they know that. And so I think, if you're new, you should know that too. That one viewer that you have, you brought value in your video, and that's super important to realize that. So I always, say like, if you have 1K views on a video, if just one of those buyers bought something, especially in the crypto NFT space, that more than made up for like the entire, like, 1K views or whatever. So anyways, just understanding those metrics is important, especially in crypto.
Yeah, definitely. Also, if you are a small YouTuber, you weirdly actually have more influence than some of the bigger ones, because some of the bigger ones, like, people watch their videos, and if they advertise something or speak about something, they speak about so many different things and chill so many things that people are like, yeah, okay, but the average viewer is just gonna be like, whatever. Whereas if a small person small influencer with a small following is talking about just their niche, they actually have more impact per viewer, which is something that people forget about. There's people that sponsor smaller influencers that will sometimes pay them more per view than larger influencers for that reason. Because
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like people are going to go to that source of information that just covers that source, and that like is built with trust. So
yeah,
versus like this huge channel, but they talk about everything. It's like, well, I don't want to watch that channel because they're literally all over the place, and I might tune in maybe like once a month, but I'm primarily watching the smaller channel that covers this topic that I want to learn about, and I am literally obsessed about, like Illuvium, or I've covered a lot of EV videos, and like people will literally want to like dial in on this stuff and want to learn and become obsessive with it, and that's fine. Like that is perfectly fine, and that is important to know, because like I think at one point like we had done some community stuff, and like Gary V ended up knowing about it, and I'm like, yeah, like the sky's literally the limit. As long as you're just hitting those cylinders and firing on all cylinders, if you will. And yeah, you can definitely like break through for sure.
definitely agree on the collaboration point as well, because I've seen that, like, in like the Illuvium space, content creators are super friendly and willing to collaborate. I had Fro Bay on recently, who's like a TFT like pro and YouTuber, and he was saying like, honestly, like, you guys have been so friendly. I've come on like your channel, Vulcan's channel. Like, I've been talking to a bunch of you guys, like, super friend. Like, when I was making videos in TFT, like, we just all stuck to our own thing. We never like worked together. Everyone was doing their thing, and no one worked together. And that's the way it was.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, yeah, when I first started doing videos, backlash or whenever, and doing NFT stuff, like that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, wait a minute, like I want to have fun too. I'm seeing these Twitch people like have all the fun over here, and YouTubers are just like staying in their lane. I'm like, no, I like let's have fun. And fast forward to today, like some of my like best friends or like good friends, like I hang out with most of these people online more than like I don't even know, like 5 times more than anybody in real life, and
Definitely.
built up relationships. And one of the guy that like I collabed with before, he actually lives like 20 minutes from me, that I found out. And I was like, what?
Mad.
Yeah. So you just never know. And you never know what's going to happen. And for a content creator, I think we realize after a while, it's like, wait a minute, we're spending way more time with these people online than in real life, and actually better friends with the online people because they get it. They're in the same space. They share the same interests, and they know that like we just all want to talk about the future. We want to talk about Illuvium. We want to talk about, the possibilities. But my IRL friends, it's like they're stuck in this like old fashioned world. What's like, yeah. So anyways,
Oh man, it's been an absolute joy having you on. It's actually been super fun having you on.
thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
very
Yeah,
much.
pleasure.
Yeah. If anybody wants to find you or follow you, definitely check out his YouTube and Twitter. Links will be in the description. Is there anywhere else that you want people to look for you?
You can follow me on Twitter. It's Tiger Willson with 2 L's in my last name. But other than that, you covered it, and that's it. Yeah, I appreciate you for having me on.
It was a pleasure, bro.